Hello. Let's see, this seems legible enough. That seems legible enough. All right. Whew, I made a lot of progress. Let's see. I wonder if anybody's here. Or does I get into it? I get the sense that nobody can hear my I'm trying something new today where I have music playing in my headphones. I feel like that makes my life better. And just want to make sure. Yeah, I don't think I'm broadcasting it. Cool. I have no viewers anyway. Let's write some code, huh? So, basically, overnight I had, and this morning I had a productivity boost and just got in the zone on my own. Built some inverse business. So now you can do this business, and instead of just printing out okay, we were working on preloading, and we were looking on a has many or belongs to relationship where you might preload many records for associated relationships. And what I got up to is you can define this user has many to-dos relationship association. Tell it to preload on some. This is just an array of user records. And it will fill in for these. It'll give you like some result which has a pointer to a user but also has like a using on it, so you can just access those fields directly. And that user is at some address in memory, which I'm logging here. It also gives you all the to-dos for that user associated in here in just an array on that result, and you can print out those to-dos. But then the biggest magic trick that I pulled off is that here, for each to-do, there's an associated user, and I'm logging the addresses in memory of both the sort of result user and the to-do user. And if you look carefully, you can see that here, this user ends in D90, but this one lives in DC8, which is the same as the user address on these to-do users, which, whew, what a fun trick that is. And right when I got this, I like tested it out by saying like, I did one of these, like for result.email gets poo is what I said. And if I rebuild, oh yeah, for users with to-dos, it.email gets poo. This still doesn't work. Perhaps you want to iterate by pointer using for. Yeah, that's right. I do want to iterate by pointer. Alright, and now, if you check this out, so users with to-dos 0 gets poo. Users with to-dos 1 also gets poo here. But I didn't mess with the to-dos, but they have a pointer to the same user, and I think maybe what I should really do is like sprint poo %, and give it it index, let's say. And now, check it out, we got poo0 and poo1, and these both got set to poo1. Alright, inverses. So with that, I'm going to delete that code. Oh my gosh. Build again, compile again, run again. So now we're back to another email and someone@email.org. Cool, these pointers line up, great. I think now it's time to write some tests, and this, I don't know, this might be like hard. It might not be that hard. And I I think I want to copy this into some like notes, right? I feel like it's time. It's time to save this target syntax somewhere outside of my workspace because it's getting in the way. Make a new window. I'm going to drag it over here. Going to paste it in. Going to save it to my notes. And the notes don't go on the stream screen. Still figuring out the rules. Alright, so this is going to be J record association ideal syntax. Yep, and this is going to be Ruby. Alright, I think I can pull this back in now. And this is J. Alright. Cool. So I have the syntax. I'm going to pull it off to the side. I'm going to close this window. I'm not going to worry about it. I think I'm far enough along on this ideal syntax that like I don't think I'm going to need that ideal syntax business forever. Alright, but really what we're doing today is specs for has many, belongs to, inverses. I'll just say specs for associations. Cool. Alright, so spec belongs to... You know what? I think I've been mad about this for a while. Let me commit what I've got. I think I added the inverse, right? Yeah, okay. Has many inverse. Cool. Whoops. Okay. Tests. What I was going to say is, I think I thought I'd add this .spec.j to match some stuff that I see in other code bases, but like, I guess I might as well leave it. It's fine. My default is underscores instead of dots there from Ruby land, but maybe I'll just grow up. Many spec.j. It's like a useful delimiter. Good dog. Down. Good dog. Still working on not barking at the front gate. Okay, what do we care about here? Man, I don't know. The loading, the inverse. Maybe I'll just do one like arbitrarily complex. I'll just like pull out the example that I was playing with in... Good dog, Charlie. Good dog. Good dog. What a quiet dog. Oh, what a good dog she is. Round of applause for Charlie. Alright, so I think what I care about here is... I think I just like do a contrived... Like describe preload... And I think here is probably where I want to add the before all hook to like do transactional database business, because I'm going to insert some records and run with them. Let me just grab this. Maybe it's time to do like spec types as well. I'm getting bored typing this over and over again. Right, I think like if there's some way you could just say like at this top level and be like type equals database, you know, and we could like register that as a spec type and it would know to like clear out the database beforehand. I'll get there. I'll get there. Okay, so before all, begin a transaction, the end of all, roll back that transaction. Now the body is something, And what do we care about? I want to say like it preloads all associated records setting their inverses. I don't know, this is a giant assumption, but maybe this is fine. Okay, cool. So here, we haven't like loaded all the stuff in every repo everywhere yet. So let's say like test user is gonna be test users repo is gonna be run repo on users. Test user is a struct of id int create. I don't care about those. Email string. I'm gonna redo this. I'm gonna say test user has many test to dos. Run has many between test users repo. I need a to dos repo, don't I? What do I care about in the to do? Cool. Alright, test users repo has many. Oh, I need to declare the repo as well. This also feels like it wants to be like some spec support code. No, it really doesn't, because I'm like testing this exact behavior. It wants to be declared here. Alright, I have test users repo, test to dos repo. Let's put it in a field called, let's go back to here. User to dos. Let's call it, let's like change these names up a little. I don't know, just to like flex this thing. Inverse of equals test to do belongs to test user. Okay, gotta define that. We're just gonna like flip these around, yeah. So like test to dos repo, test users repo, test to do, test user, user ID, and there's no inverse here yet. I'll get back to that later. Okay. Great. So now I need to create some users. My repo doesn't know how to do that yet. That would be a nice thing for the repo to know how to do, but I haven't gotten there. So I'm just going to get a database connection. Yeah. And then I'm going to execute some SQL, right? Execute connection, insert into users, email, values. Here, right? I just care about email. Insert into users. Let's say like or user with to-dos at email.org with some to-dos with yeah. And like a user with only one to do, let's say. Okay. Great. Oh yeah, I'm gonna need these IDs to map things back out. Cool, so then here, this seems like, maybe it's time to build something like that. Okay, insert results gets that. Cool. And now what? Okay, user with some to-dos. ID is insert results 0.id. This is with no to-dos. This is with one to-do. Yeah. Okay, we got fixture data for users. Now we need it for to-dos. I don't think we'd care about this result though. Insert into, what is it now? To-dos. And the things that we care about here, it's going to be user ID, it's going to be description, it's going to be completed at. I think I don't care about completed at. Let's like get that out of there. It's just going to muddy things, right? The description is going to be good enough, and we'll be able to like mess with these. Yeah, great. Okay, what do we got? We need user ID. I might try to get a little bit clever here. First to do for user with many with some to dos. Like, can I use $1 repeatedly? And this is like to do for user with no to do, with one to do. Alright, we've inserted these. We don't care about the IDs. I guess the IDs would be like nice to test on, but I feel pretty comfortable testing just on these descriptions. Alright, so now users with to-dos gets, I want to do a test user has many test to-dos dot preload on a test users repo. Man. Yeah, let's get these prefixes. Test users repo dot all of, and then you give this somewhere, is that right? Yeah. Test user IDs gets for insert results. I'm thinking this has to be a pointer. This has to be an any. I want to array add test user IDs it dot ID. And then I want my inserted users is a SQL where of ID in question mark with one argument, and then inserted users.arg0 is test user IDs. Okay, I think I did this whole thing correctly. So now this inserted users, whatever, user and test. Like, whatever, is test user. Let's say that. I want to do a pointer to this. Okay, so we want all the users where they're a test user, and we say test user has many test to-dos. Preload on this set of users. I think we've done it. Okay. And now what do we want to do? We want to do a bunch of assertions on this, right? Okay. So we want to say let's oof. Alright, so first we want like the count, right? Expect test users with test to-dos count to equal 3. That's easy, right? Okay, and let's say test or like actual emails. I don't. That feels fine. All right, let's grab actual test user with some to-dos is a pointer to a, oh crap. Like it's a pointer to a type of a thing in this array. I don't know how to name that. This thing is a bizarre type. Alright, let's say like find actual test user by ID. This isn't gonna work either. Okay, and give it the test users. Alright, that'll do it. That'll do it. It'll be ugly, but it'll do it. Alright, so for test users, if test users ID equals ID, return it. Great. Test user with some to-dos ID. Actual user, test user. Yeah, that might work, right? Okay, and now I want to expect this dot to-dos count to equal 3 as well. Yeah? Okay, and let's say actual test user with some to-do descriptions. That is going to be a dynamic array of string for this array add on that it. And I want to expect that these descriptions contain exactly, is that what I called it? To contain exactly? To match, to contain exactly, yeah. And the things that we cared about are these 3. Oops. Yep. Alright, let's get some more breathing room. Alright. Yeah? This feels like what I want to be testing. This feels like how I want to test it. These to-do descriptions contain exactly that. And then, this is too long of a line. This is like too long of a line as well, but what are you gonna do? Okay, now let's just like pause there and see, does this test even run? No. Find actual test user by ID. This colon should have been an arrow. Missing a semicolon somewhere. As always, describe amateur hour. What? Oh, did I forget to pass test users in here? Yep, I did. I did. Uh-oh. Huh? ID is not a member of bracket has many preloaded. What? Oh, yeah, this should have been like it.id equals ID. No? To-dos, shouldn't it be on here? Oh, test to-dos, yeah? I called it test to-dos, didn't I? Alright. Now what are we up to? Array add it, type 1 is string, type given, something else. Okay, so here I want to add it.description. And I'm picking some very long variable names, which is not helping my code's readability. Whoo! Bind message. What is a bind message? Test user IDs. Whoa. I've done this before, though. How does this work? Where do I do this array business? Isn't it like SQL execute spec? Is it here? Oh, nested eggs has also got to be... Okay, let's try that. Uh-oh, is that... Is this my problem? That can't be my problem. What? What do I want to look for? Let's look at like module. Get in here. Before I send the query, I want to print. Oh, I'm not even in the right spot yet. Did I forget to... This was my problem. I didn't even fill these two, right? Supply 0 parameters, but it requires 2. Okay, okay. We want user with some to-dos ID. And we want user with one to-do ID. Whew! Okay, let's undo this. Although a verbose mode does seem like it'd be a good idea. Whoa, we pass? We pass! Alright! Let's do this. Let's keep it going. That means we like got these, right? I don't know. Can I print this? I mean, I guess, yeah, right? I knew this. Because it worked fine in production code. I just was sure that we were going to run into some like fat fingering test stuff, but we didn't. Alright, so let's look for... Okay, so now we want... Let's actually expect actual test user some to-dos to not to equal. No. Time for new matcher. Alright, I've got 2 equal, not 2 equal. Or maybe I'll just go like to be present. I think that we're gonna run into some issues otherwise. Okay, so to be present. Can I just do that? Is that allowed? Alright, and now here I can implement a matcher, matches value. Yeah, that's alright. That's the whole thing we gotta do. That's the whole thing we gotta do. Actually, maybe I'll say this is like a pointer to some value. We don't care about the actual value itself, but we do need to make sure it's a pointer, otherwise that's like a type error. Let's say to be present. Cool. Does this pass? Nope. Semicolon. What? Uh-oh. Oh, yeah, I gotta call it, huh? Amazing! We're present! Okay. Now, let's go to the next one. Actual test user with no to-dos. Yep. Okay, I want to expect actual test user with no to-dos to be present. Expect actual test user with no to-dos dot test to-dos dot count to equal 0. You know what? I'm gonna go for like to be empty as well. That seems like useful, right? And so here we want to be empty singleton, and then down here I want to say matches value is some like array of some type value which we don't care about. count is not equal to 0. Cool. Does that work? Ooh. Wanted to be empty given type. I think I forgot. I needed just a single colon. I did a double colon. I'm always doing that. Getting a call from Maryland. Those are always spam. Amazing. We're just blowing through these tests. All right, this is working astonishingly well. All right, what's the last thing that we care about? Is the one with the one to do. Actual test user with one to do is fine. Actual test user by ID user with one to do ID. Test users with test to do's. Grab this last one out. Expect actual test user with one to do to be present. And expect actual test user with no to do with one to do dot test to do's that count to equal 1, and then expect actual test user with one to do dot test to do's 0 dot description to equal what did we call it? We called it to do for user with one to do. I feel like this test feels pretty thorough so far. Ooh, expected it to be empty. Got empty. What? Where did I throw in it to be empty that shouldn't be there? Where is this? Line 122 on this one. Actual user with no to-dos. Dot test to-dos. To be empty. Okay, okay, okay. Oh yeah, I got it backwards. Man, did I misread failing tests for passing tests earlier? Whoops. Alright, so I think the last bit that we haven't covered here is like inverses, right? So I think I want to like expect that like, oh, and this is gonna get a little bit weird, isn't it? Because we gotta make sure that like pointers are configured correctly. This is also some behavior that I think I might tweak soon. Like currently the way that we do the inverse relationship is like maybe I'll not test like where the pointers actually line up, but like that like mutations are reflected on both sides. That seems like the best idea, right? Okay, that seems like a good idea. All right, what can I do here? I think maybe what I want to do here is like, will this work if I pull these up a level? You know, can I go like this? I think I tried this before and this doesn't work. That's right. Doesn't work. Yeah. Which, like, makes sense, right? Things that you define in this upper describe maybe don't want to be, like, accessible to everybody everywhere. So what do we want to do here? It could be cool to share some of this logic. I just don't know if that's possible in a useful way. And like having one giant it, I think I'll just like copy paste some code. So it preloads all associated records. I feel like really what I want to do is insert, but I need these IDs in the it block. Yeah, this is exactly where a before each hook and a let for some fixture data would really help. Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull these out and say scope file and do that. I think that that'll help me a little. Maybe this too. Okay. And then this much, let me make sure this even runs. No. Undeclared identifier insert result. Well, alright, I'm just gonna have a ton of copy pasta. Okay. It sets inverses. Gonna do all the same stuff, although I think all we care about is the user with one to do. That, okay, we should have gotten one out of this. Don't need this anymore. Let's go for user with one to do. Gets the first of here. Alright. And then I think really what I want to do is like make a mutation and expect it to like line up correctly. So I think first I'm going to expect user with one to do dot to test to do's 0 dot user email to equal user with one to do at email.edu. Yeah, okay, and then I'm going to edit user with one to do's email. Gets like some new email.gov. And make sure that this is also updated. Yeah, because this seems like it'll like guarantee that like, so all we did here was just like edit the user's email, and so if this path links us back to the same email, we're good. And it means that we don't need to like worry about like the actual literal pointers. We're testing the behavior that we care about, which seems more helpful. User is not a member, belongs to preloaded. Yeah, this is test user, isn't it? Whew, we're green. Yeah, let's like print these out, just to like convince ourselves. This is before. This is after. Yeah, wow. All right, our tests work. What a test we've got here. Wow. Okay. Spec 4 has many. It's done. Spec 4 belongs to is next. Whew. Wow, this feels serious. Okay. Let's get that belongs to spec, huh? What am I doing here? You know what? I think, honestly, there's going to be a ton of duplication here. Preloads all associated records. That's about the same thing that we want. We have this has many. We have this belongs to. We set the inverse. We're going to want to set an inverse here pretty soon. The first thing I'm going to do is delete this because we don't do this in belongs to yet. Okay, and now we don't care. We do now care about the insert result. We do care now about the to-do IDs. I don't know, right? And we don't care about this one anymore. Okay. I think this user's no longer interesting. Let's get that out of there. Okay. And I don't think we need 3 to-dos for the same user. Okay, so now... But it doesn't seem nice to have like 2 for the same user. That feels useful. Okay. Test to do IDs. Test to do IDs. And this wants to be over to do insert results. Let's like call this something else, right? This is a test user insert results. Okay. Test to do IDs. We insert those IDs in here. We say is test to do ID and this should be test to do IDs. Okay, test users with test to do's. This is now going to be test to do's with test users. And this wants to be test to do belongs to test user. Test to do's repo is test to do. Okay, this looks correct so far. We want this count not to be 3. We do want a 3. Yeah, it's still 3. Okay, great. Find actual test to do. Okay, so actually, you know what? Yeah, we should, because we're testing preload behavior. We should let this live. Let it go. Okay. I briefly thought like maybe it's time to use like a test and like do like a find here and find by ID each one. But like the whole point is that we're getting a list with preloaded business, so that would be silly. Okay, find actual test to do by ID. Great for this wants to be called test to do's. This is good so far. All right, and now this I want to find actual test to do by ID for. Okay, now we're actually like testing the things that we care about. So I think I'm gonna just like kill this. All right, so. First to do for user with oh, I didn't pull these out, did I? Okay, so first test to do ID is second test to do for user with some to-dos ID. third test to do for user with some. Oh no, this is okay, we got the 3 IDs out. Great. And what do I want to call this? Just committing to the long names. I'm going to call this first test to do ID and test to do's with test users. Alright, we got it. Expect first test to do blah 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 to be present. Expect first test to do for some user to be present, and expect user.email to equal, and what's the email address? User with some to do's at email.org. Alright. And then we basically duplicate this for the second one. We should probably make sure that the description is correct too, right? Let's do like a. Just make sure that we're coherent here, right? Make sure that this is like plausible. Okay. And this is going to be like second. And then really, that should do it, right? And then this is now going to be to do for user, for test user with one to do, not ID. And this description should be to do for user with one to do, right? To do for user with one to do. And this wants to be user with one to do at email.edu. Oof. This sure is a lot of kind of boring boilerplate-y. But I mean, we're testing something that's like mundane, but the fact that this got kind of obvious at the end is probably like reassuring, right? Yep, these all need like .id at the end. Right, because the whole point of these is that they make it possible to work with like collections that we pull out of the database and manipulate in code and ship back to the database, so that they get sort of repetitive is like kind of the point, yeah. .user is wrong, it wants to be .test user. Because that's what I called it, because I'm a dum-dum. Alright, where are we now? Array bounds check failed. First test to do insert results 0. Oh yeah, because I didn't hit returning IDs, did I? Yeah, here we go. To do for user with one to do's. Wow. This thing seems to work. The tests seem to work. Which, I mean, like, makes sense, right? Because like, it's apparently working here. Okay. What did we change? We added some matchers. We added 2 specs. Specs for belongs to and has many. Whew! This would be like a nice ergonomic one, but I don't know if I'm ready for this yet. I bet I like listed this in here down as well. No. Yeah, I have this already. Get that out of there. We're not doing that yet. I feel like we might as well check off belongs to inverse, like get that out of the way. Although I think I'm already pretty aware of an imminently approaching problem. Specifically, what am I looking for? Like from this, this is our like gold standard of like the things we'd like to be able to express, which is like Ruby, where you can say, well, it's like dot syntax instead of like nested function calls and whatever, but user dot include, so these are the preloads that we're doing, and we're gonna on user include two relations, to-dos and recommended to-dos. But for each of these, we're further going to preload a tags, which is like it boils down to the same relation, like both to-dos and recommended to-dos link to the table, the to-dos table. And then for each of these, we're going to do one additional query to bust n+1s, and including the related tags records. So what does that mean for us is I thought about this being like a usable syntax for us, where we say like user has many recommended to-dos, yeah, and we're gonna from right. It's like kind of an uglier tree, but so here we start with user repo.all with like some condition, and like I don't know. In the Ruby case, right, we don't have. There's no all here in this code that I specified. All right, confusing myself a little. But I was thinking that the sort of like the same way that we map, maybe like a comparison is helpful, that we would capture this association between to-dos and tags being connected, will be that we, in the preload call to user has many to-dos, we embed a preload call for something that gets passed in that lets the system know to do this sort of intermediate preload. Right, so it means that like somehow in the process of executing this preload on one has many, it'll at some point have a list of to-dos that were like generated in the process of doing this preloading, and it's going to take that and pass it in here to associate to those to-dos their tags. And we'll do the same thing for this recommended to-dos preload, which matches this thing, right? Where we'll say, like these syntaxes mean the same thing. Where on the right we say, like, preload to-dos and preload the tags for those to-dos, and then separately preload the recommended to-dos and the tags for those recommended to-dos. And here in JLand, we're thinking, right, preload the to-dos and the tags, and preload the recommended to-dos and preload their tags. So there's like a useful, but okay, the reason this is tricky is like what's its type? It'll alter the type of, like it's gonna alter the type of like whatever. It's gonna alter the type of wherever it's being inserted, right? Because like user has many to-dos already returns a sort of incoherent type that's like already a head scratcher, where it returns this has many preloaded, which is this like metaprogram nonsense where it's got using some source name, right? And so the structure of it ends up looking like what we consume in here. Like it's got a user, and then it's got on each user there's like a to-dos, but the result is like using that user. So poor choice of words. But because of that, you've also just got direct access to like, I don't know, you could do like result dot like email, which like knows how to do reference a few hops through with using to get to the user's email, so it can like masquerade as a user, but it's not actually itself a user. And that's where things fall apart in like here, where like we don't know if we're able to just like inject arbitrary code in here. Like we might not know like the actual type that will be eventually returning if it's governed by arbitrary code specified in this style. Because like concretely, like this Like this is just the actual record, right? This isn't like a wrapped up like preloaded thing with the actual record in it and some like destination associated with it. This is like locking it down. It's like, no, it's like properly the actual thing. Which like we already have one way of dealing with here. But I'm gonna have to think hard about that. It's gonna be tough. Yeah. Okay. I think I'm about ready to take a breather. I could just like barrel through on implementing, let me get this out of here again. I could just barrel through on implementing belongs to's inverse, but I am hungry. So I think I'm about ready for a lunch break. But this was an exciting session. Make sure I don't have anything happening. Cool. Goodbye, everybody.